at the video when we are done, and we're going to take a couple notes as well. So the video is quick. It's only like a minute long. So we'll watch it, we'll talk about it, and then we'll go from there. All right.
Rotation describes how an object turns around a point. It's used to describe the movement of geometric shapes. For example, if you tack up only one corner of a rectangular sign, what's going to happen? The sign is down. It has a rotation around the tack, but geometrically, it's the same shape. Rotation is really common. The triangles that make up spokes on this bike wheel are rotating around the center axle. Mathematicians use rotation to describe shapes on a coordinate plane too. Check out this triangle. In mathematical language, we show it like this, which describes the points of the triangle's vertices based on where they're located on the coordinate plane. To rotate an object, you first need to choose the center of rotation. This is the point that you'll rotate the object around. To make it easy, we'll choose point 0, 0, or the origin, on this coordinate plane. When we rotate the shape, we need to keep the shape exactly the same distance or equidistant from the center of rotation all the way around. If we rotate the triangle 1/4 turn around the point of origin, counterclockwise, keeping the point of rotation exactly the same, then the triangle moves to a different place on the coordinate plane. The triangle shape stays the same, but the triangle has rotated, and the points used to describe the triangle have also changed. To show that a triangle has rotated, we use a little symbol like this. So now we have turned a geometric shape around a point. That's what rotation means. We can use it to move shapes and describe their movement.
Okay. Great video, right? So great. So today we're going to talk about taking geometric shapes on a coordinate plane and then rotating them or turning them around as we kind of move through. As you rotate though, your picture should stay the same size, the same shape. The only thing that's going to change is its orientation. So if it looks like it's getting bigger or smaller, then you are doing something wrong. So it should stay the exact same size and exact same shape. All right, so we're gonna get started with our notes here. So go ahead and put your name and today's date. It is the 27th. And we're gonna work our way through each of these different types of rotations. So if you have been with me already, we have talked about reflections. So taking a picture and flipping it. We have also talked about translations. So taking a picture and sliding it along. Now we're going to talk about rotations, taking a picture and just turning it on a graph. All right, so a rotation is a circular movement of an object around the center or a point of rotation. So in my first rotation here, it asks me to rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. What does 90 degrees, what is that going to create? What kind of angle is 90 degrees? A right angle. What, where is the origin located? On a graph, where's the origin? Where they intersect, so it's 0, 0 is my origin. So I'm always going to turn my graph around the point 0, 0. So I'm going to put a point there to show that. Now, I'm going to rotate my picture here 90 degrees counterclockwise. That means opposite of the clock. So if you look at the clock, which way is it going? To the right or to the left? To the right. So if I'm going counterclockwise, which way am I going to go? To the left. So I'm going to turn my picture to the left. All right, so I'm taking my picture, I'm turning it 90 degrees to the left side. Now, I have two pictures there. One is my pre-image that I start with, and one is my image that I end with. How do you know which one of those triangles you should start with? The one on the left or the one on the right? Well, I am turning it left, but why can't I start here and turn it all the way around, right? That works too. Because what?
But it won't be like that way. Why would you want to move it forward?
Well, you can, there's no like a certain amount of ways that you could rotate. You could rotate it 100 degrees. You could rotate it 200 degrees. You could rotate it 3 degrees. Just how much you decide to turn it.
Oh, the points.
What's the difference between these two? Okay, they're going sideways. What about if you look at the points? Like this one's got a V, this one's got a V with a little tick mark next to it. What does that mean? That's your prime. That's your new one. So the ones that do not have any points next to them or no tick marks, that is your pre-image, your starting point. So I'm going to label this picture right here as my pre-image. That means where I start. And that's these points over here on the left. Pre-image is where I'm starting. So if I'm turning it to the left, I'm going to this new one over here, and I call this one on the left, this is called my image. So it's where I end. So the pre-image is where you start, image is where you end. And I always look for the tick marks. That will tell me which one to start with and which one to end with. If it has a tick mark, that means that's where you end. If it's got nothing next to it, then that means that's where you start. All right, so I've got my pre-image right here in blue. I'm taking that pre-image and I'm turning it to the left 90 degrees, creating that pink one. And that one's called my image. Now, I'm going to write the coordinates of each one of these points, and we're going to see if we can come up with a general rule or pattern that we see. So if I take a look at point V prime, so the V with the little tick mark next to it, this one up here, what are the coordinates of that point? So go left or right first, up or down second. -1, +4. So go to the left 1, up 4. Good. -1, +4. Okay, what about this point W prime all the way over here to the left? How many do you go over? -4, +2. I know it's small, sorry. And then the last one, point X prime. Yep, stays the same, so it's 0, and then I go up 2, so it's a +2. All right, now we're going to see if we can notice a pattern as we go from the blue one, from my pre-image to the image. What'd you say, Antoine?
I think I did.
Okay, what do you think the pattern is?
I think it's why you do that one was excellent.
Okay, so he's saying I went from 4, 1, and then now it becomes -1, 4. They definitely look like they are trading places, right? 2, 0 becomes 0, 2. Are they all changing signs?
No, well, 0 can't be negative.
No, 0 can't be, but like, did these ones change signs over here?
No.
No, these didn't change signs. Which ones did change signs? The Y's changed signs, right? So from here to here, they changed signs. They went from positive to negative. My X's all stayed positive. They didn't change signs. So my rule looks like this. My X and my Y's trade places. Right, so it went from 4, 1 to 1, 4. And then the one that's changing signs is my Y values. They're changing signs when I flip them over to the other side. So my Y's, change signs. So that means if these were all positive, so they all became negative over here. What if I would have had all negative ones? Then they would have changed to positive, right? They're just changing signs. Okay, so when I write it as a rule, I say XY becomes, so they have to trade places. Y to X, they trade places. And then my Y changes signs. So my Y, I put a negative sign right before it. That shows that it changes signs. That doesn't mean it's negative, that just means it changes signs. All right, so by looking at the pre-image to the image, if you rotate 90 degrees, Your X and your Y trade places, your Y changes signs. All right, so we're going to do the same thing for the next 2 rotations. We're going to write the coordinates. We're going to see if we can find a pattern for each one. All right, questions on that one before we go on? Full key. Rotation 2. We're going to rotate 180 degrees counterclockwise around the origin. Again, the origin is right in the center. It said 0, 0. Counterclockwise means to the left. And if I'm going 180 degrees, what is that making? A straight line, yeah. I'm going to rotate this essentially a straight line. Okay, so I've got a pre-image and I've got my image. Which one of these two is your pre-image? The triangle on the top, the triangle on the bottom? Top one. Yep, okay, so label it. Or mark it or do something to it. That's your pre-image. So important to know where you start and where you end. That means this one at the bottom is my image. Okay, so just like before, we're going to write the coordinates and we're going to see if we can come up with a pattern. So I'm going to let you try that one. I want you to write the coordinates and see if you can come up with a pattern. So go ahead and go back and give that a try. Yep. I'm hoping you see a pattern, and then if you see a pattern, you can write in words what's happening. After you write the points, tell me in words what's going on. All right, so I saw a lot of good coordinates. So hopefully your coordinates match up with Mr. Masso's up there. Who can tell me what seems to be the rule or the pattern? Like what is happening between the pre-image and the image? What's going on?
X and Y stay the same, but they change sign.
Very good. X and Y don't trade places. They stay in the same position. The only thing that's happening is your X's and your Y's are all changing signs. So I went from 0, 3, and 4 to 0, -3, -4. These were all positive. These all become negative. So I'm just going to write X and Y change signs. So if I'm writing it as a rule, how should I write it? XY becomes what? -X, -Y. Perfect. So they stay in the same position. They just changed signs. Now, what if all of mine were negative to start? Then what would they become? Positive, right? Okay, so these don't mean make them negative. These mean change the sign. So from the pre-image to the image, I essentially went around halfway. All right, we got one more. Are you ready? You can kind of catch the gist of what we're doing here. All right, so in rotation number 3, again, we are going counterclockwise around the origin, which is at the center. So I'm going to put a point at the center. I have a pre-image and an image. Which one of those is your pre-image? The top one or the bottom one? Oh, I heard both. Pre-image, your starting one. Has no tick marks. Top one is your pre-image. Which means bottom one is your image. That's the one you're changing to. So I'm going from this blue one all the way around to this pink one. It's almost a whole circle. All right, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to let you write the coordinates of the points, and let's see if you guys can figure out what the rule is. So take a sec, write those coordinates, and we'll see if we get the same thing. Write the coordinates of your new one, and write in words what's happening. All right, who can tell me what seems to be the rule or the pattern that you are seeing? What are you noticing? Ivania, what do you think?
So the X's and the Y's look like they swap places.
Good.
And the signs change for the Y value.
For the new Y value, which original one changed? The X of your original one. So you always go back to the original, but good job. Yes. My X and my Y trade places. And my original X's changed sign, right? Because these were all positive and now they became negative over here on the right. So my X's changed signs. Okay, how would I write that as a rule? So X and Y trade places, it becomes YX, and then which one changed signs?
Yes.
Negative X. Good. Perfect. All right, so now you have the rules written for all 3 types of rotations that you're going to see. Those are the only types you're going to see. So we're going to take those answers, those rules, we're just going to summarize our results right here. This is the most important part because this is where your rules go. So if there's anything you need to have, it's definitely this one part. So I'm just going to go back through. I'm just going to copy my answers from before. If you rotate 90, your X and your Y's trade places. The Y becomes, the Y changes signs. If you rotate 180, they stay in the same place. They both change signs. And if you rotate 270, they trade places and your X changes sign. So what you should notice is like the 180 is the one that's all by itself. The 90 and the 270 look very, very similar to each other, the rules for them, right? The only thing that changed is which one was negative. Now there's one more type of rotation that you can do, which is a 360 degree rotation. I put CCW for counterclockwise. I don't want to write the whole word out. 360 degrees. Now, if you rotate 360 degrees, what are you making?
Full circle.
A full circle. Now, if you make a full circle, what's going to happen to your points? They stay the same. Nothing changes about them. So if I ask you to rotate something 360 degrees, it's going to end up right where it started. Nothing's going to change. So if you wanted to write it as a rule, you would put XY becomes literally XY. No change. And so that's like the easiest one to do a rotation for, right? Because it's not moving. All right. Now, using those rules, we're going to do a couple of examples there together, just of some coordinate points without graphing, just using the rules. And then on the back side, you guys are going to have a little bit of time to do some practice with graphing ones. Okay. So the first example asks you to rotate 270 degrees. So 270 means you switch places, and the X, the original X, changes signs. So I'm going to circle all of my X's because those are going to be the ones that change signs. So they trade places, and the ones I just circled change signs. So if I started with 4, 6, what would be my new point? Switch places, X changes signs. What do you guys think? Switch places, X changes signs. Anyway, what do you think? Well, if you just switched places, what would it become? If it was 4, 6, what would it become if they switch places? It becomes 6, 4. And then you have to change the X value. This was a positive 4, so what should I change mine to? Negative 4. So your answer is 6, negative 4. Same thing for letter B. Who can do number B? Or letter B? Switch them. 2, 5. Good. And what about the last one? Negative 12, comma 0. How come we don't change 0? Yep, can't be negative, can't be positive. It's just a 0. You leave it how it is. Good. Now, number 2, give the coordinates of the points after a rotation of 90 degrees. So for this one, your X's and your Y's trade places, except this time your Y's will change signs. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to circle or underline whatever, all of my Y values. Those are the ones that are going to change this time. All right, so they trade places, and the ones I just underlined change signs. So who wants to give me D prime? If I started at 4, 6, what does it become? Negative 6, 4. Okay. If I started at negative 5, 2, what should that become? Negative 2, negative 5. Good. And the last one, if I went from 0, negative 12, what would it become? 12, 0. Fantastic. All right, so it's all just about following the rule every single time. Last one, give the coordinates of the points after a rotation of 180. What do I have to do with a rotation of 180? What happens for 180? What do I do? I just make the X and the Y, they just change signs for both. But they do not trade places. They stay in the same spot, they just change signs. So if I had positive 4, positive 6, what should that become? Negative 4, negative 6. If I have negative 5, 2, what should that become?
5,
5, -2.
5, -2. And if I have 0, -12, what does that become?
0, 12.
0, 12. Good. So if you can follow the rules, the rest of it is super easy. All right, give me, excuse me, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to the side. How are you feeling right now about it? Good, good. Okay. Flip it over to the back. Huh?
We have to grab these.
Okay. On the back side, you've got a couple graphs this time. So it's still going to be the same thing. We're going to write the coordinates of our new points, and then you're going to graph them afterwards. So we're going to do the coordinates first. We're going to graph second. Okay. Now, I have given you the pre-image, the starting point. I also tell you to go to the origin as the point that you rotate around. We're going to rotate this figure 90 degrees. So I'm just looking at what's given to me here. This is the pre-image. I just want to write the coordinates of each point to start. That's all I'm doing to start. So what are the coordinates of point Q?
1, -1.
1, -1. Go to the right one, go down one. What about R?
3, 0.
3 over, and then I don't go up or down. So 3, 0. Good. And what about the last point, S?
4, -4.
4 to the right, and then down 4. 4, -4. Okay, now, without graphing anything, I'm just going to do the coordinates first, and then I'll graph it when I'm done with it. I need to rotate my figure 90 degrees. So I'm going to flip back to my notes. If I rotate 90 degrees, the X and Y trade places, the Y becomes negative. So the X and Y trade places, the original Y's right here, all should change signs. Okay, so what would my first point Q prime, what does that become? Trade places, and the one I circled changes signs. 1 and 1. What would be my next one?
0 and 3.
0 and 3. And what would my last one be?
4 and 4.
4 and 4. There you go. Now that you have your image, we're going to plot the points. And when you plot your points, you are going to label them, every single one. So 1, 1 means you go to the right 1, up 1. And I put Q prime with a little tick mark right next to it. If you forget the tick mark, it's going to be marked wrong. R prime is 0, 3. That means you don't go left or right, but you go up 3. And the last one, S prime 4, 4 means you go to the right 4 and up 4. And connect your points, and it should look like the exact same shape, just turned. So I rotated my figure 90 degrees to the left. So if you do your coordinates first, graph second, your life's going to be way easier. All right, do I have any questions on that one? Or any of those graphs there? So that's what number 5, 6, and 7 are all going to be like. You're going to do the coordinates first, you'll graph them second. All right, I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'm going to give you the rest of the time to complete. I would like to jump over to number 8, because that one looks a little different. In number 8, you are given 2 pictures, right? You're given the pre-image and the image. I want to know, what type of transformation is it? Is it a 90 degree? Is it 180? Is it 270 or 360? That's what I want to know. So if you're looking at these 2 pictures, which one is your pre-image, your starting one? Top one or the bottom one? Top one. I'm going to put pre right inside of it, which means this bottom one down here is my image. So I'm going from the top one to the bottom one. Well, can you prove that, or are you just guessing? Well, how do you know I didn't rotate it more than that? Like around and then again. How do you know? How do you know? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick one point from the pre-image. You can pick any point you want. F, G, H, or E. Which one piques your fancy? There's no right or wrong answer. Which one do you want to pick? F, okay. Here's point F. We're going to write the coordinates of point F. All right, so how many do you go over for point F? You go over 5, and then how many do you go up? 1. So you've got -5, 1. Now we're going to find its matching point in the image, which is F prime, down below. We're going to write the coordinates of F prime. What are the coordinates? -1, -5. Good. Now, I'm asked to write a rule. So these are my original points. This is point X and point Y. What happened as I moved to the new point? Did they stay in the same position, or did they switch positions? They switched positions. Did they stay the same sign, or did one of them change?
Yeah, the one thing.
Which one?
Why?
The Y changed. So I switched this to -Y, comma X. There's the rule. And which rotation is that?
270.
-YX is
Oh, 90.
90 degrees counterclockwise. Yes, you said 90 degrees, but you did not write the rule, which is what I'm looking for. Oh. So I'm looking for the rule, and I'm looking for what type of rotation it is. All right, so you've got a couple questions left. You've got 3 graphs. You've got one more like this one. And then you've got 2 that are just, if I give you the image, you have to give me the other point, okay? So we've got only about 5 more minutes right now. So get as far as you can at the moment. And then whatever you don't finish, you can finish up tomorrow. I'm going to leave my rules up on the board so you don't have to keep flipping back and forth. But as you go to graph, do the points first, graph second. First, graph second. So take a couple minutes right now. Get as much done as you can. I'm going to come around and take a check and look at them.